In this video, we'll take a look at the Film Signature Series Photoshop actions from Photography.net. This is a set of stackable actions that makes it possible to create a really customized film-inspired look with your photo and allows you to get a look that will work right with a particular photo rather than forcing you into a one-size-fits-all action. The set includes several different types or categories of actions. We've got the base actions here that can be used as a one-click action if you like, or they can serve as the foundation for your edit, and then you can add on top of that some other effects from our adjustment actions, the tone actions, light leaks, grain, vignettes, and there are also some finishes. So I'm going to demonstrate how the actions work here with a sample photo. I'm going to start by running all of the base actions. There are 14 different base actions, and if you're not sure which one you want to use or how each one will work with your specific photo, it's best generally to run them all, and then you can easily see how they each look. Okay, so now it's done running over here in the layers palette. You can see the 14 different bases. There's a folder for each one, and you can just activate each one to see how they look. So I'll go through each here. This is basic film, which is a simple starting point for a typical film-inspired look. And there's blue lift, simple style, glorious, brash, intense, cross-processed, freshness, depth, gentle film, sepia tint. And there are 3 black and whites. There's a black and white film, silver film, and black and white deep fade. So you can see very quickly how each one will interact with your photo rather than having to run them all individually, and you can choose which one you want to use as a starting point for your effect. In this case, I'm going to use depth. One other thing I want to point out here is that you can decrease the impact of each of these effects if you like by decreasing the opacity. So if you select the folder of the effect that you're using here, and you go up to the opacity, you can reduce it down from 100% to a lower number if you want to make the effect a little bit softer. Okay, so now moving on, we'll take a look at the adjustments. And the adjustments also have a run all action that will apply all of the adjustments. So I'm going to use that. There are 10 different adjustments, and when it's done here, it just gives you a little reminder to open up the adjustments folder in the layers palette. So once we open that up, we can see the different options that are available here. There's shadow recovery, highlight recovery, add haze, washed out, faded, lighten, darken, brighten, contrast boost, and a contrast reduction. And each one of these can also be customized through the opacity. So for example, if I'm going to add some haze, you can select that layer, and you can see in the opacity by default it's set at 60%. So if you want to soften the effect, you just decrease the opacity. If you want to make it stronger, you increase the opacity. So in this case, I think I'll add some haze and give it a contrast boost. And I'll close that folder when I'm done. I can move on to the tones. There's also a run all action for the tones, so I'm going to go ahead and run that. And with these run all actions, you don't have to run them if you know the specific effects that you want, then just run the individual actions. But they're good for experimenting and seeing how each of them will impact the photo. So then this will give us a reminder to open up the tones folder. So open that up and you see the different adjustments that are available here. There's vibrant, warming, cooling, desaturate, and with the desaturate here, if you move the opacity all the way to 100%, it's going to completely desaturate the image to black and white, and of course you can adjust it however you want. And then there are some color tones here and all of these are also customizable. You can increase the opacity to make it a stronger effect, and reduce the opacity to make it a softer effect. Okay, so I'm going to work with this one, violet. I'm going to select that, and I'll close the tones folder, move on to the light leaks. Same thing, there's a run all action, which I'm going to run. Again, you don't have to run them all. If you just want to run one individually, that's fine. If you want to see how they all impact the photo, you can do that. This message just reminds you to open up the light leaks folder to see the different options. So for each, there's several different colors, and then for each one there is 3 different variations. There's a left, right, and a top. So I'm going to just show a few of these here. Got the orange, red, violet, orange to blue, red to violet, and green to gold. Again, there are 3 different variations of each of those that I just showed. I'm going to work with orange on the right side, but that's a stronger effect than I want. So what I'm going to do is select the layer, go to the opacity. Again, you can adjust this here. I'm going to reduce it down from 70% to 45% to give it a much softer effect. Okay, and then we'll move on. There are actions for adding grain. There's a light grain and a heavy grain. The heavy grain is pretty heavy. I'm going to add that one and then show how you can customize it. If you double click here where it says add noise, it will open up the smart filter, and you can get the exact amount of grain that you want. By default, the heavy grain is set to 20%. I don't want it quite that heavy, so I'm going to reduce it down to about 12% to give it still some grain, but softer than the default version of the heavy grain. Then there are 3 different vignette actions here. There's a soft vignette, medium, and heavy. I think for this photo I'm not going to use any of those. And then the last part of the set here is the finishes. There is an action to make a snapshot, which if you're not familiar with snapshots, they're helpful for saving a particular version of your photo so that you can go back and make changes later, as long as you still have that file open. So I'm going to click the make snapshot action, and it just gives you a little message here that your snapshot's been recorded. To view it, you go to the history panel. So I'll show that in just a minute. The next finish here is to flatten the image. If you look in the layers palette, you can see that there's a whole bunch of layers that have been created by the actions. So when you're done editing and you want to save it, you can click this action to flatten it, and then it'll just give you a message here, or a little reminder to make a snapshot before flattening. So I flattened the image. Now you can see that it's just one layer in the layers palette. Now at this point, if you decide that you want to go back and get access to the layered version, if you made a snapshot, you can easily do that by going to the history and then go up to the snapshot, and now you can see that all of the layers have been restored. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the flattened version because I just wanted to demonstrate that. And the last 2 options are for sharpening. There is a light sharpening and a stronger sharpening. So you can choose whichever one works best for your photo if you want one at all. And so that shows how you can use those actions by using the run all actions. Again, if you wanted to get the same type of effect without running them all, you could do that. You could do that just by selecting, in this case I use depth, so I would just select the depth action, run that, then move on to the adjustments, run whichever ones you want, whichever tones you want, if you want a light leak, if you want a vignette or grain, or any of the finishes. And these actions are also compatible with Photoshop Elements, so I'm going to move over to Elements and demonstrate that. They are compatible with Elements 11 and newer, so currently that is versions 11, 12, and 13. There are a few differences in Elements, but they are for the most part the same. For the base actions, there is a run all action, so I'm going to do that here. And again, just like in Photoshop, it will run all of the bases, and then you can simply decide which ones you want to show to see how they will impact the photo, and choose which one works best. So here we have the 14 bases over in the layers palette. They're all hidden once it's run, so to see any of them, just click on the icon and you can go and choose which one you want. Let's see, I use depth, so we'll show that one here. One of the differences in Elements is that just the way it works with folders. If you want to open the folder to get access to the individual layers or adjustment layers, you'll need to run this open folder action that's found in the Finishes section. So select the folder that you want and then run that action. This will give you a reminder to make sure that you selected the folder that you want. Click Continue, and now you can see that it opened up that folder, and you can access any of these adjustment layers. So for example, if you wanted to change the saturation, you could do that through that layer. If you wanted to hide any of the individual layers, you could do that. Okay, then moving back up. One of the other differences in the Elements version is that it does not have the run all action for the adjustments or the tones or the light leaks. Because of the limitations of working with folders, it's just a little bit easier in Elements to add them individually rather than running them all and then having to run the action to open up all the folders. It's just a little bit easier to do it individually, so that's the way it will be done in Elements. The other difference is with the grain. You cannot customize the grain the same way that you can in Photoshop because Elements doesn't support smart filters. So for example, I just ran the heavy grain action, and so in order to reduce the effect, I would just use the opacity to get a softer grain rather than using the smart filter like you would with the Photoshop version. And Elements also does not support snapshots, so we don't have the action to make a snapshot. Other than that, everything is pretty much the same. When you're done, you want to flatten your image. You run on flatten. And that's it. So that covers the film signature series actions and how they work to allow you to get a really customized film inspired look with your photos. Thank you for watching.